Okay, so here we have a 360-degree aerial view on Moreton Bay from Victoria Point. So in the foreground you can see Cuchimondo Island and these hills in the back, that is Stradbroke Island, which gives you an idea on how large Moreton Bay actually is. So this was east, we're turning now south, so this goes towards the Gold Coast and south of Moreton Bay, and now we're turning west. We can see Victoria Point in the foreground here, and again north. So this is again a 360-degree image. The beach that you see here at the bottom is the beach where we're actually standing on, where the seawalls are. So we're now turning from west towards north. So this little strip of land with the housing is Victoria Point. There's a little bushland with a car park up there and a ferry terminal down in the corner that you see there. Cuchimondo Island again here in the foreground, and Stradbroke Island in the background. So this direction is east again, and we're going around now to look towards the south and further around to look west again. So you can see the house estates here at Victoria Point and a little beach in the foreground. So this is the beach that we're going to walk along now. So the following videos show you a couple of sections of this beach as we go around. And we will talk a little bit about like some of these seawalls that you can see here, this rock wall and also some of the smaller seawalls, as well as some of the housing estates and a little bit of the processes that are related to erosion in this particular type of environment. Okay, so we have just come down here from Victoria Point a little bit. So we looked at the cross section towards Stradbroke Island, and then we have walked along the beach here a little bit. So this is a beach within the Moreton Bay area. So we are in a bay, and the beach is actually sheltered from the islands that are on the outside of the bay. And you can have a look at the waves here and the wave action. It's already clear that there is relatively little wave energy here, and you can already think about like what that basically means in terms of the erosion capacity that we have here. However, there are a number of seawalls built here to reduce any kind of impact from erosion. While it's not very large during storms and higher wave energy, there might be some. And we want to have a look at some of these different walls that we have here. But first, so this, what I said here, so we are in the island and we'll have a look around. Okay, so we've got the beach here, and this is basically Moreton Bay, and we find Stradbroke Island there in the back. This is Victoria Point where we came from. And let's have a look at these different beach walls. So right in front here we have a beach wall that is made of big boulders, right? So they're just basically boulders that are piled up on top of each other. It's probably dug a little bit into the subsurface, and boulders are basically fill a little trench and then are mounted along the beach front here. They are probably relatively good seawalls because they break the energy of the waves, and they retain the sand material behind them. Let's have a look here at the next seawall. So this is a seawall that is made out of a combination of large boulders and concrete. And you can already see that there is some issues with these seawalls, right? So the boulders you have only a small number of larger rocks in there, and the concrete actually starts decaying, right? So it starts breaking up, and that holds part of that seawall together, and over time concrete basically brickles away and it starts basically decomposing. You can see some drainage pipes in that wall. They are often necessary so that you don't have a build-up of water behind these walls. In this case here, you can see a beach wall that is made of like relatively small pebble bricks, right? And it is held together by a mortar. Of course, it is probably sufficient in an environment like Moreton Bay. However, if you were somewhere closer to a higher energetic environment at the open coast, these walls are often not very strong. So this is where the difference lies in between the large boulder wall that we have seen before. They are a lot stronger and a lot better to protect your beach front, but we also talked about like some of the negative side effects of like stabilizing dune systems along the beach fronts to make these nice properties up very close to the beach, right? And I just want to refer back to the lecture material. Okay, so if you look at this beach wall here, there is obviously a problem here with the erosion, right? So this was a wall that was built with bricks, and there was probably some backwash, and the wall has basically degraded over time, and it has broken down and is not functional anymore. This is a typical example here of erosion. So if I turn the camera around a little bit, you can see that this is the beach that we just came along here, and this is a property where we don't have any of this protective beachfront. So you can see how some of the soils basically get eroded away, right? And that is regressive, so it will basically continue if you don't stabilize the coast here in that particular environment. Okay, so we have moved a little bit further along the beach, and what we actually see here is a drain pipe. I'll take a photo of it and show it a little bit more in detail in the video. But we need to think about what that basically means for Moreton Bay, right? So we have a lot of the surface water in the catchment in the back of Moreton Bay that is basically draining into Moreton Bay. And with this water that comes after heavy rainfalls, for example, comes also a lot of material that is basically transported out of these catchments. So we have a lot of sediments that are transported out, and we have also a lot of nutrients that are transported out. So there is surface runoff, not only nutrients but also contaminants, right? So any kind of materials that are either dissolvable or can be transported by the water energy will eventually end up here in Moreton Bay and will be discharged into the bay area and finally into the ocean. This is only a very small example of many drain pipes that basically lead into this area. So all of these residential areas and the catchments in the hinterland basically drain into that area, and you find these drain pipes all along some beach fronts, not only here but also elsewhere along the coasts. If you look around a little bit, and again I'll take a couple of extra photos that I put into the video, you'll see that there's also a change in building structure over time, right? So behind me you can see one of these older fishing cottages, and that is right next to it is a relatively modern house. And this is indicative of a transition from a more fishing community in the past to a community that prefers the lifestyle along a beach, right? So we have probably like people that might commute into Brisbane but they like to live relatively close to the water. So you have a bit of a transition in a community over time here. So this is the photos of the drain pipe. It has degraded a little bit over time, and it is a relatively small drain pipe. So they exist in all kinds of different sizes, and this is probably a relatively local drain. They also have like larger drain pipes that basically drain more of the suburban hinterland into the bay. You can see a lot of that comes from surface runoff, but also a lot of other runoff that is created in the suburban areas. As we have walked along the beach, we have come across like some rock outcrops underneath the sand. So this is a type of a red crust-like rock, and it is what we call a laterite. And a laterite is basically the product of leaching of a host rock, in this case the basalts that are underlying parts of the area here. So some of the minerals or some of the elements get basically leached out of it. Others remain there. The less soluble minerals remain there, and in particular iron and manganese oxidize to these reddish and brown crusts. And you can see some close-up photos here how that basically looks like. So these are these crusts that you find underneath the sand. It is basically the weathering product of the basalts that are in place.